Hi, Professor Rose. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you again for this extension; it was very helpful. What I focused on was I did the Diary of the Executioner, like many of the students. And what I really wanted to focus on was not just what the diary says, but sort of how it says it, and what the tone reveals about how people understood violence back then. What really stood out to me is that Schmidt writes about executions in this extremely cold, methodological way. He lists names and crimes and punishments like he's balancing an accountant book. Like he lists ritual torture essentially, like I would list safety procedures at my daycare job. It's very bureaucratic. It's not emotional at all. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. I think that his diary turns violence into a very obvious form of order, something organized and almost sacred in a way. Every punishment feels like a ritual that's meant to restore a sense of balance between sin and justice. Even the way that he describes many of his steps, drawn on a sledge, pinched with bright red hot tongs, executed on the wheel, it sort of reads, I thought, like instructions, not like just random horror that he's describing for no reason. It's almost as if he and the city have turned killing into a bureaucratic procedure, and a procedure sort of morality. I also found it interesting how Schmidt uses religion. He doesn't just record punishments, he almost very frequently connects them to God. He writes things like refused to pray, God knows how he died. That was one of the last things he says, which shows how, at least he personally, tied faith and justice together, and violence as well. They're not sort of separate things. Violence becomes a form of justice, which becomes a form of divine order. So I think that those connections is really interesting. So my main takeaway, and what I really wanted to explore in the essay overall, was that Schmidt's calm, precise writing is what makes the violence even more disturbing. It shows how easily cruelty can hide behind the routine and the daily norms, and how justice can very quickly become just another misconstrued word for control. And we've seen that quite a few examples even so far in just our 6 weeks of class.